So, welcome to this session. Let us look at what happened with respect to HMT watches. Such an important public sector unit. We are looking at this case at least about 15 years backwards. Let kindly note that it is figures, the data refer to 2006. At that point of time only, the company had problems with respect to watches. So, the entry of competition in the form of Titan created this. Okay. So, just look at this whole scenario. So, if you look at the SWOT analysis with respect to HMT.
Excuse me, sir. Bigger screen, sir. Bigger screen.
Screen, okay. Which one? This one,
On
okay.
that one, sir.
Okay. With respect to this HMT watches, if you look at the SWOT analysis, if you see the watch model, I am giving so many watches in this. It had these names as Space, Strayas, Swarna, Sangam and Lalit, Roman and Utsav, Elegance. So, the market segment for which it was catering to is also given in the next column. The price range as it existed then is also given there in the third column. So, if you look at it, the mid range elegance watches was priced above 1500. So, the low end watches between 801 to 1500. So, 40 million watches per annum, annual growth rate of 10%. So, in 2006, kindly see this, Titan was percentage of market share was more than 20%, whereas HMT was much below. So, Titan was a later entry into the market. Then you had other organized sector players, so many other manufacturers of watches, unorganized sector, so many, this is what we refer to as grey market, all those types of things. So, smaller players also come in, not only from within this country, it can be from other countries also. So, market share of mechanical versus quartz watches, if you see, mechanical watches was just 10%, the quartz watch was very high, that is nearly going up to 90% in 2006. So, when the quartz watch of HMT was introduced in 1981, it was a rave. Okay. So, at that point of time, it was thought that the quartz watches may replace the mechanical watches in toto. But when you look at the present day scenario in 2022, especially in the rural areas, you find that the customer wants the mechanical watches of HMT. This is something interesting. Okay. He thinks that this mechanical watches of HMT is a rugged one and it is much better compared to the other watches available of the same mechanical brand from the other companies. So, this is how it is. So, this is where these are called the many times the twists and turns that take place in a market. So, when introduced quartz was thought it will swamp, it is swamping, but mechanical has not gone out of business yet. Now, if you look at strengths of HMT at that point of time, it had 4114 approved dealers, 79 wholesale dealers, all those types of things, wide product line. You had an analogous watch, digital watch, auto date watch, 3 strategically located manufacturing facilities, all were having the ISO 9001 certification. Strength of HMT was nearly 2200 employees. Compared to this, the strength of Titan is much smaller. Brand continues to be the mainstream brand among major watch dealers in the domestic market. We are looking at 2006, kindly note that. The quality and reliability of HMT watches has been the main selling feature and attraction for the consumer. With all these strengths, what happened? So, experience of more than 40 years, high volume production, cost advantage. What are the type of weaknesses which was seen in 2006 only with respect to HMT? No strategic long term policy. This company failed on the strategic front, kindly note that. Then unutilized machinery and capacity utilization of just 33%. It is what do you call, you are making use of only 1/3 of your capacity, cruel actually. 33% means only 1%, 1/3 of your capacity utilization right in 2006. So, can understand the type of losses the company is likely to incur. Then assembly line does not support economical low volume production. So, this is where sometimes when I was discussing earlier in the previous sessions, when economies of scale are not able to be operated, at least you could you should see whether economies of scope can be put into being. So, this is the other thing which the company should have thought about. Then lack of consumer focus with respect to aesthetics. So, never gave prominence to the look of the watch like what Titan did or what Titan projected. Poor advertising and promotional campaign, poor support from retail traders. Maybe the margins they were getting from Titan was more attractive than HMT, that is also possible. Weaknesses, poor designs, delay in judging public choice. So, in fact, one of the ads which HMT put out at that point of time, they thought that this ad is to cater to the younger market segment, that is market segment of youth. But to their chagrin, they found that it was catering to the elder market segment. Instead of the youth, it was catering to their parents, that ad. The parents were more impressed with that ad than the youth. So, this is another thing with respect to ad, which you should be very careful, that is a company should be very careful of. So, you are targeting a particular segment, suppose that segment itself does not get targeted by the ad, then the ad is really not serving the purpose for which it was put out. Then virtually no R&D, designs and technology are copied. This was one of the types of allegations which were being made also at that point of time. So, saying this is some copied design, all those types of things. Kindly note, this is 2006, poor financial performance, low production per employee, brand name has lost popularity, upper middle class and high class. So, upper middle class and high class were not preferring HMT watches in 2006 only. So, but there still existed opportunities for HMT to stage a comeback based on its brand name, untapped market, a huge growing middle class with a high spending power and a watch market growing at 10%. Any market growing at 10% is considered good. So, they could also tap markets abroad, all those types of things. Then the type of threats they faced: retaining the brand name which customer perceives as number one quality, takeover by competitors, extinction of mechanical watches, then increasing domestic competition, loss of key talent to competitors. Then we will look at what went really wrong with HMT. One point I already mentioned: did not pay importance to aesthetics and packaging of watches in attracting consumers. So, this watch is not just what do you call a product to give time to the consumer. It should also be attractive, able to catch the attention of the person who is wearing the watch, but also the person who is seeing this person, that is what is the type of watch this person is wearing. So, if you really look at it, even an educational institute like the Institute of Science used to give watches for its employees who put in a certain number of years of service as a memento. This watch was also coming from Titan. You could now think, okay, instead of HMT, this quartz watch was also coming from Titan. So, HMT was not able to capture these types of momentous market also. Kindly note that. Lack of professional marketing underestimated the role of retail traders in the distribution chain from manufacturing company to consumers. So, did not take care of the interests of retail traders. Maybe as I mentioned, Titan was doing that job better compared to HMT. Inferences from the sales based on which decisions were made were wrong. So, the sales team used to give one type of input and the company used to make decisions, and the inputs from the sales team itself was wrong. So, that is in fact the irony of the whole scenario. So, if you look at it, you see the key ratios, how it is changing. You had the current ratio dipping to 0.17 from 0.4 in 2003. Then the fixed assets coming down to 0.12 from 0.24. The debtors are also, if you see, not very impressive. Interest cover ratio again not impressive. Then the profits ratios PBID, TM and PITM again not impressive. Then the key ratios current aggregate, it is at 0.7. So, compared to that, some other figures are given of Timex, Titan. If you really see, HMT is at 0.17, Timex at 1.23, Titan also at 1.23. Then the comparisons of turnover ratios also given, HMT at 0.12, Titan at 3.68. Then inventory, if you really see, HMT at 0.33 and Titan at 4.67. The interest cover ratio, there is no cover at that point of time, minus 0.55 for HMT. For Titan it was 4.83. So, being a public sector unit, HMT had a what do you call a long decision making chain. It was not immediate, impromptu. You thought that you are in the sales or the marketing team, you can take an impromptu decision with respect to sales or marketing. No, you can't. You have to go through a chain, and when this chain, after you went through and the decision came to you, again the market would have changed. So, this is a type of scenario which executives in HMT, especially from the marketing team, were facing. Knowledge gained from the market is not implemented properly. So, this decision making itself is an example. It called for quick decision making, and this was HMT was not forthcoming with this quick decision making. So, you do not react to situations, this is reactive decision making, then lackadaisical attitude of the management team, not really coming out with proactive strategies. Especially in the liberalized market, if you are not coming out with proactive strategies, then it is a doomsday, okay, for the company. Okay. This is what I, when we discussed the modes of decision making, when we discussed, we said even with all its perhaps flaws, if you want to call them flaws, in this present era, you should look at entrepreneurial decision mode. That is, you should be what do you call dashing to the marketplace if it is possible. Do not keep on waiting for other players to overtake you. This has been the bane of the public sector. That is the decision making. Then improper utilization of resources provided by government. So, in the first place, government resources are there. Sometimes the government gets into decision making by public sector units. All this causes lot of problems for the public sector, and then as I said, to handle with the bureaucracy. Okay. Then the abolition of key posts in the period of turnaround plan. So, they went in, there was a turnaround plan suggested for HMT, but at that point of time the government or the top management of the company, perhaps on the instructions from the higher ups, abolish the key posts only. Then again it is a very serious setback. Accounting practices were not followed as agreed, as pointed out by the CAG. Over ambitious projections that every company does and sometimes scales it down, all those types of things, but should not be highly ambitious. Then improper cash budgeting, existence of spurious HMT watches. This is what I said, the grey market. Okay. Then lack of plans, strategies for product diversification. So, it was in fact HMT was many times becoming clueless of the market, and Titan was capturing the market share, and it was in fact a sorry state of affairs for HMT in the face of Titan capturing the market share. So, the timekeepers to the nation itself was really finding it hard to keep time with the market. Failure to consider the effects of economic liberalization, failure on the part of the ministry management to consider the apprehensions. Should go for variants suitable to all segments, customer centricity and effective marketing strategy focusing on strengths is the key. at least at that point of time, suggested to HMT. Analysis should be made to innovate and capture market share. Achievable targets are to be set. If you really see, proper accounting practices to be followed. Some learning from the competitor was also suggested. Take some learning from Titan itself, because how Titan is able to have such good capacity utilization, whereas you are at 33% and look at Titan. Proper utilization of funds and flexible production system to adapt to changes in design. So, this western markets also, it was suggested, where mechanical watches are in vogue, HMT should look at the market segment, and HMT's mechanical watches are quite good, as I told you. So, even in this era also, the mechanical watches are holding sway, are holding their position as against the quartz watches. It was thought that mechanical watches would become extinct, has not become extinct even in 2022. The rural market still prefers these rugged mechanical watches of HMT. Come up with attractive promotional schemes. So, this was the type of suggestion given. So, if you looked at the road ahead in 2006, Godrej and Boyce had signed an agreement with HMT to be its national distributor. So, it could leverage on its brand name. So, it was suggested reduce these NPAs, motivate the workforce, improve the managerial efficacy, and use the technical know-how to reduce the number of components in watch, increase the precision and durability. One more suggestion which was given was enter into niche market segment, niche segment of high precision watch manufacturing. So, aligns with other business firms to push products in the high class segment. So, take care of the retailers, which Titan was really taking over from HMT. So, HMT's retailers were shifting to Titan. So, this is at some facts. If you really look at the assets which were there, the land and buildings, 218 crores, they were to be disposed of between 2001 to 2005. That was a market expectation, 218 crores, but HMT realized only 57.59 crores. That is also a big setback if you really see. So, all this was really having a high draw on HMT. So, all this resulted in a company like HMT really, HMT watches really not performing to what was expected. So, this is if you really see, it is a sad commentary when you look at it. A wonderful company like HMT watches not able to perform to the levels that was expected. So, had the tag name of brand timekeepers to the nation, now finds that HMT itself is becoming extinct. It is having its presence, if at all, if you want to call that as presence, in the rural market segment with respect to its mechanical watches, that is all. That also is a very small percentage, as you see. Maybe that you should also look at it from other angle, that segment might not be attractive to the competitors of HMT. They might have thought, okay, let HMT keep that market segment, that is also possible. So, this is where HMT watches gives you an example of how a good and flourishing company got caught in this economic liberalization process and has almost become extinct. It is really not there in that sense. So, this is what can happen to a company in this liberalization era if it is not able to adapt to change. And we have seen that very recently with respect to Air India, going back to the Tata's fold. Even a company like Air India, which was a monopoly a few decades back, could not sustain in this liberalized scenario. So, mounting losses, all those types of things created a big, in fact, made a big dent on the operations of Air India. So, went back to Tata's. So, this is where we stop. We will continue in the next session. Thank you.